Aaltoes Entrepreneurship Society. First of all, I'm going to talk to you briefly about what we do, what is the space, and then I'm going to briefly introduce Donna to you, who's going to hold the keynote. So, Aaltoes Entrepreneurship Society, founded in late 2009, we're a student and researcher-run community that aims to help students and researchers create great startups from this university. What we do in practice, we organize around 50 events a year, bringing you inspiring keynote speakers, entrepreneurs, others, to talk about their experience, to talk about specific key points like today. Donna is going to talk about marketing from the point of view of a startup. We also organize a summer startup program during the summer. The application process is open. You can find it on our website, aaltoes.com. So if you want to work in a startup during the summer, come here for the whole summer with your team, get around 4 or 5K of seed funding, get our network of coaches to help you out, get a program with great keynote speakers and others. You should check out Summer Startups. Also, we have a second program called Entrepreneurship during the summer. So if you want to work in a startup and actually get paid for it, we have around 15 startups. The further stage one is Rovio, which probably most of you know, but there's also startups that haven't even launched a product yet. They're going to launch it during the summer, which is an awesome learning experience. Then also, the application period for Startup Sauna is now on. You can check it out at aaltovg.com. So Startup Sauna gathers 10 teams from the Baltic region, teams with an actual prototype of technology or a freaking good team and an idea. And it's a 6-week program where you get to use the network of coaches to build your prototype, to work on your business model, and to go for international VC funding. About this space, so this space is called Aaltoes Venture Garage. It's an open space where anyone, even if not a student or researcher in Aaltoes University, can come and work on their startup. So this is a co-working space. So you can take up any of these booths, come here to work. There's a great community of people. There's around 50 startups that work in these premises. So you can ask for help. You can ask for opinions, feedback, and such. And also this is the place where Startup Sauna and Summer Startups programs will be run. So welcome. The doors are open from 8 till 5 p.m. And there's usually people here almost around the clock. But if you have any questions on Aaltoes Entrepreneurship Society, what we do, how we could help you about Startup Sauna, Summer Startups, others, please come talk to me after this event or to anyone from Aaltoes Entrepreneurship Society. And also remember to check out our page at aaltoes.com for upcoming events. If you have a startup or if you're looking for a job, you can apply for jobs there. Cool, yeah. Actually, we have a third program during the summer called Startup Live. So 6 students and researchers will get to work in a startup in Silicon Valley for the summer and take courses in Stanford, entrepreneurial courses. So it's pretty freaking cool, and maybe applying in myself, so you should check it out. But you can find more info on aaltoes.com and all of these things. But without any further ado, so today as our guest speaker we have Donna Novitsky. She's a lecturer at Stanford University. She has background as a venture capital investor for over 9 years. She's worked with over 16 startups, mainly doing their marketing. So she has a pretty good view about marketing from the point of view of a startup. So Donna, if you please, let's give her a hand.
So do I need to use this or can I just talk?
However you like.
Can you hear me if I talk? Yeah, in the back? Way back? It's okay? Good, good. So it's such a pleasure and an honor and a thrill to be here and to talk to you in this, hopefully someday, very famous place, right? As entrepreneurs, we like to start things, right? And this is, when I first heard about this, I thought, that's incredible, and it's so young, and you guys are at the very birth of much of entrepreneurship right here in Finland, and I am so privileged to have this opportunity to come here and to see this. Is it working? If you can't hear me back there, somebody raise their hand, okay, and I'll use the mic. Anyway, so I feel like I'm embarking kind of on a third or fourth or somewhere new chapter of my career. The first part of it, I worked for Sun Microsystems when it was very small, before it was public, and met a lot of really great people there. We went off to found companies and do venture capital, and that kind of provided a foundation for me. Then I joined a startup in 1991 called Clarify, which was a B2B software company that basically created with other competitors at the time the CRM industry, the customer relationship management industry. Didn't exist before we got started in 1991. There were 3 companies founded at the same time. And I was fortunate to be VP of Marketing for Clarify, take the company public in 1995. When I left in 98, it was 100 million revenue and 500 employees. So I was truly living the entrepreneurial dream, the Silicon Valley dream, the now Aaltoes University dream, to work really hard but also create something that didn't exist before. Left that in 1998 when I had a baby, had my son, who is now, you can calculate, 13 years old, and joined the venture capital business, where I was a partner at a Sand Hill Road firm called Mohr-Davidow Ventures, which did a lot of B2B investing and now does B2B, B2C, also environmental, green technology, and life sciences. So it's a fairly good size firm, over probably $3 billion of capital under management. They were established in 1981. So I learned something about myself going there, which is that in venture capital there are hunter-gatherers and there are cultivators, you know, going with different personality types, and I'm a cultivator. So what I learned was the general partners would go out and they hunt and they gather and they find great companies to invest in, and then they give them to me, sort of like, here's $3 million in Donna for 6 months, she'll help you get your company started. So I went off and worked in 16 different startups, as Nikki said, doing their initial go-to-market strategies. So what I've learned about Finland is that you have a very awesome engineering skills and base of technology. And one of the areas that maybe I can help learn, and what this presentation's about, is how do you combine those incredible engineering skills with marketing skills to bring products to market and create companies. So my expertise is all about the marketing side, and that's what I will share with you today. From venture capital, I got tired of just investing in everyone else's companies and helping everybody else, and went back to my kind of entrepreneurial roots and joined a company called Big Tent, BIGTENT.com, which is a B2C company. So I had to reinvent myself as a B2C person and learn all about consumer internet businesses as the CEO of Big Tent. Big Tent makes free websites for groups. So we had thousands and thousands of parenting groups, school groups, church groups, neighborhood associations, etc. 1.1 million members on the platform who were using it every day to communicate with the groups that they cared about in their communities. We sold the company to Federated Media in October last year, and it lives on. My baby went to college, and now it has a bigger stage to work from, and is continuing to grow and thrive under Federated Media. All my users continue to have their homes, all my employees got jobs. It was a good outcome. But that freed me up as of last October to go back to figure out what I'm going to be when I grow up, which I haven't quite figured out yet. So right now I'm working with Stanford and teaching entrepreneurship. I teach a class called Global Entrepreneurial Marketing, like on the slide there. I've been teaching that for about 7 or 8 years. It's a master's level course in the School of Engineering. So I like to say I teach marketing to engineers. That led to this program and some other programs where I've had this great opportunity to kind of travel to Europe and learn how different countries are taking advantage of everything that entrepreneurship has to offer. So, so here I am, and without further ado, I'll kind of jump into my presentation. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay, not surprising, but I want to encourage you to ask questions, raise your hands, you can challenge me, whatever, let's make it interactive. And I want to make sure you learn what you want to learn, yes?
So which part of your area would you be learning more from a VC or from an entrepreneurial perspective?
Definitely from an entrepreneurial perspective, right? As a VC, your job is to pick great companies. And so what you look at is markets, technologies or products, and teams. And it's primarily those three things. VC is not a finance business. It's not about the numbers. It's about technology, markets, and teams. And depending on what market segment, they're weighted differently. So, so what you do as a venture capitalist is you know, it's high level, it's evaluating those three things, and it's choosing where you're going to put your money. What I found is really, for me, what was the hard part is, you know, rolling up your sleeves and that day-to-day, you know, what it takes to build a successful company. It's really hard, but it's also incredibly rewarding. And, you know, for me, the best part is building the team that you get to work with every day, and, you know, having those day-to-day wins and losses and the things that just really enrich your life, you know, taking those risks, and then, you know, you win some, you lose some, but overall you learn and you feel this great sense of accomplishment. So, but being an entrepreneur, I'll tell you, is really, really hard some days. And then other days, it makes it all worthwhile. So, any other questions? That's a great question. Okay, so I want you to know, we like to say that entrepreneurship is a team sport. Like I was just saying, for me, the rewarding part is building the team. So this is Stanford University, this is the main quad, and your partners live here, and we are your partners. So if there are ways that we can help you through this partnership, please don't hesitate to contact us, and we'll do the same. So your partners live here. They live here. This is the new, brand new, less than 1 year old engineering building where Stanford Technology Ventures Program lives. And the STVP is a subset of the School of Engineering that's all about teaching entrepreneurship. And they've developed courses and programs worldwide. And they learn from everybody just like they teach. So we really believe in this global community of entrepreneurs of which you are a part. They live here. Probably looks kind of familiar. Could be here in Finland, right? They live here in the US. I probably do 10 or 15 hours a week in Starbucks, where I'm working on the internet connections there. And that's where many startups are formed. So, in cafes, they live here as entrepreneurs. We sleep when we can. We work other times. So, and here. So through my 9 years in venture capital, a lot of connections on Sand Hill Road with the various VCs there. And believe me, they all look at the world as a global economy. And you know, they want to know you, they want to work with you. It's not easy, but certainly opportunity for you. Quick overview of STVP. So this is the program within the university that has the alliance with Aaltoes University. We're now teaching 24 classes a year on entrepreneurship, everything from entrepreneurial finance to marketing to how to write a business plan. Students are taking for class credit, much of them master's level courses. We have 5 or 6 PhD students in the department that are doing pure research on entrepreneurship, trying to figure out what makes successful companies and what makes successful entrepreneurs. And there's some really great research there. And then we have this huge outreach program to industry within Silicon Valley. I'm sure you guys, is everybody familiar with the Educators Corner website?
Yeah.
A few? So we need to send out, like I said before, we need to send out the URL. So this is a website free to anybody, and there are over 1,500 video clips, presentations, etc. If you want to hear inspirational thoughts from John Doerr or Vinod Khosla or Sergey, or any of the Google founders are on there. Lots of entrepreneurs. There are all kinds of videos on this website, Education Corner. So you can Google Stanford Ed Corner and you'll get this website that just has tons and tons of resources for you for free. And you are part of this global entrepreneurial ecosystem. So this is just in 2011 and 10, where we've held 3 conferences, Roundtable on Entrepreneurship Education. In fact, Will Cardwell is there right now in Washington, D.C. at one of these conferences, mingling and building relationships with entrepreneurship educators from other parts of the world. So, and I believe Aaltoes University is hosting this in 2012. So we will be back. So now I have a question for you. What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? Yes?
Just courage.
Courage. Yeah.
I was at a speaker with one guy from Salesforce, and he did 3 excellent points. Get up early every day, work hard every day, and find oil.
That's good. That's good. Mark Benioff by any chance? Yeah. But what else? Perseverance.
Passion.
Yeah, you never know. You gotta just keep working. Sometimes you don't even know what it's gonna take to be successful. You just gotta keep plugging away. Yeah.
Networking skills.
Networking skills. And I hear that Finns are particularly good at networking skills. Is that right? Thought so. What else? You have a comment?
You need an idea and potential clients.
You need idea and potential clients. At some point, someone has to pay you money for it, right? Yes. What else? A great team. Yep. So a few more things I'm looking for.
Have a dream.
Dream. So another word for that is vision, right? Vision and a dream and how you're going to make a big impact on the world. What else?
Luck.
Luck. Right? Right? And what does the golfer say? The harder I work, the luckier I get? Yep. The luck can play a big part in it. What else?
Good people around you.
Good people, like the team. Yeah, good team. Good team. Anything else we're missing?
Funding.
Funding, that's always helpful. So here are some things that came to mind. I think we said all these. You have to, courage, I think was the first thing said, but that also is taking smart risks. Being willing to make a bet. And vision, no one said passion, which is actually probably one of the most important things and one of the things that drives us all to be here because we're passionate about something. I'm passionate about entrepreneurship. So I get to be here talking to all of you guys about being passionate about whatever you're passionate about. Great products, right? You can't have bad products. In the end, the product has to speak for itself, and it has to be great. You also have to have a great market strategy, which is sort of my lead into my presentation. And even then, it's hard. So I don't know if you can read this in the back. It says, it's got a caveman. He says, "I call my invention the wheel, but so far I've been unable to attract any venture capital." Right? Well, he's got a few issues with his product. But I think with a little perseverance, he probably will figure that out. So why do we do this? Why are you guys entrepreneurs? What's your reason for being here today?
You get to do what you want.
You get to do what you want.
And nobody's telling you, you need to do this next week.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You get to make your own choices.
I'm here basically because of frustration, because I've been doing these funny calculations for 4 years and can't
Wow, that's amazing. Imagine how much you'll know 4 years from now. What else?
Change the world.
Change the world. So when I met with Risto and Linda in California, and they explained to me a little bit about Garage and Aaltoes ES, and what they were doing here, and the motivation and what's going on in Finland, and I thought, what an amazing, amazing opportunity we have to help you guys all be successful entrepreneurs, to help your economy, your country, and even Europe and the rest of the world with some of these, what some people might see as problems, we entrepreneurs see as opportunities. And it's just an incredible opportunity to make a difference. So as long as the world has problems, there will be entrepreneurs and there will be opportunities. It's the ultimate, to me, it's the ultimate job security. If I have a skill set as an entrepreneur, I can go create jobs for myself and for other people, anytime, anywhere. So, with that, let's get started. So this is the lecture that I give to my class. It's called MS&E, Management Science and Engineering 271, grad level class called Global Entrepreneurial Marketing. It basically has been derived, sorry for all the words on the slide, but all that small print in there, those are all the different companies that I worked in. And they were mostly B2B, some B2C, a little bit of energy, but a lot of data analytics, security gizmos, some online advertising, more security things, so email servers. So I had the privilege of working with 16 different entrepreneurs on 16 different streams. And I was the one that would help them figure out, okay, you know what you're going to build. You have a really awesome vision. What's release 1.0? What's the first thing we're going to build, and how are we going to get it to market? So how are we going to breathe life into this vision of yours? And that's what I got to do there at MDV, and that's where this presentation came from. So it's really relevant not just for entrepreneurs, it's relevant for people in big companies, because if you follow what I'm going to tell you, you'll bring more products to market that will be successful sooner and accelerate your products to profitability. It's relevant for startups for sure to build your customer base before you run out of cash. And it's relevant for universities to think about how are you going to build your product, how are you going to build your team, how are you going to get your funding, and all the pieces that it takes while you're in the really kind of early stage. So it's all about breathing life into your very first products. Okay, and this is the thesis. Product and market development are strategic and iterative processes that have to be done at the same time. And why I wrote this is because I was working with all these different companies, and actually why Mohr-Davidow Ventures hired me was because they said, if you get started and help these companies from day one, it's not like I was there to fix broken companies. I didn't fix broken companies. From a venture capital standpoint, if you're broken, they're almost better off to write it off than try to fix it. More important is to get the company started on the right foot from day one. So that's what my job was to figure out how we were going to market the products and who was going to buy them and how we were going to price, package, position, etc. And so that's where this came from. So I'm saying you have to build a market from day one. And why that's maybe a little bit counterintuitive is because a lot of entrepreneurs think, but I have to have a product before I start talking to customers. But that's not true. It's not easy to just go out there and talk to customers, but you can. So building a market is hard because you don't have any customers to rely on. You have to go cold call people, knock on doors, use your contact list, use your network, use your professors, use all the people the people in this room can help you. The people on those buildings I showed you can help you. you have no product, you have no budget. Customers may not know they even have a problem. So you may have some market education you have to do. And no one may know who you are, right? So it's, but we said you have to be courageous, right? But you do have some things. You have a team of superstars. And I hereby, the fact that you have all come to this presentation and declare yourselves entrepreneurs, you have superstar qualities. You have vision, you have belief, you have creativity, you have the ability to make things happen, but you have to go out there and put your stake in the ground and make it happen. So you have superstars, you have people, you have engineers who are really awesome developers. You may have someone on your team that knows sales. Really, and you don't bring on mediocre people to a startup. You need the best of the best. So you have superstars. You have a game-changing product that's coming to life and a vision to show where you're going. So don't underestimate the value of those things. Okay, and I'm going to show you, I mean, I know this sounds kind of fuzzy, so we're going to talk about how you do this. So you're going to take those things that you have, superstars, demos, vision, ideas, and leverage that to get what you need. What you need are customers. So you're going to do two things. You're going to market the company, not the product. Here's a trick question for you. What do customers care about? If you solved this yesterday, you can answer. What do customers care about? Profits. How to satisfy their needs, right? They care about their problem, right? They don't care about your product. They care about themselves, right? So if you put yourselves in the customer's shoes and you realize that what they care about is their product or their problem, then there's all kinds of ways that you can solve their problem. It doesn't require shipping code or shipping hardware or shipping anything. It requires you having the knowledge of how to solve their problem, and it requires them to have the confidence in you that you have that knowledge. Okay? So as soon as you change your mindset to that, it opens up a world of possibilities of how you can build those relationships with customers. So you're going to market your company, which means your people, not your product. Okay? Because you don't have a product yet. And we can't afford to wait until we have a product to do this. Then, once you do that and you start building your customer relationships, you're going to learn a lot about where the right target market's going to be. And you're going to say, okay, this guy has the pain and I can solve his problem, but his issues, his needs are really not mainstream. He's got some really unique aspects of his pain. So that may not be the best target market. These guys over here, I see, hundreds of potential customers with all exactly the same problem. That sounds like a good place to start. I can scale if I solve that problem. So you're going to learn in this process of talking to customers where your ideal initial market is, and then you're going to go after that with everything, every resource you have. So, and make sure that you are successful in solving those customers' problems. So it's not just giving them code, it's providing training and tools and technical support and potentially marketing support and whatever it takes to make sure that you end up building a relationship with a raving fan who's going to go out and talk to their friends about how you solve their problem. Okay? That's what we're trying to do. So we're going to market the company, not the product, because it's about the customer's pain. It's not about the product. And we're going to determine the ideal place to start as our initial target market, and then we're going to make sure that they're successful. Okay? Sounds kind of intuitive. So here's how I like to think of it. So the Tango is, how many of you have been in product development organizations and brought a product to market? Lots. Okay, so I would say almost half. So this is a really simplified view of that process. So you're initially doing whiteboard design, alpha designs, You build something, then you debug it, it goes to beta, maybe test it with some potential customers, then at some point you have a production-ready product, the product goes live, and eventually you have global rollout. Okay, so that's on the product development cycle. So what you need to be doing in parallel with that at the same time is developing the market. So if I can walk around up here. So we're developing a product over here. We have somebody on the team, probably the CEO and maybe a marketing executive, that's developing the market. So while you're doing your whiteboarding in alpha, you're having exploratory meetings with potential customers, and you're just a sponge. You're learning and learning and learning and understanding what their real problems are. Not what your product is, but what's the customer's problem. At some point, when you're ready with the product to have somebody test it, you can choose where is my ideal market segment going to be and start getting some feedback on that product, maybe getting the product in the hands of customers. But it's not just feedback on the product, it's also building credibility with those customers that you know how to solve their problem, that you understand their problem, and that you can solve their problem. Okay? So you need to come out of this step with credibility as well as product feedback. You need to also figure out, okay, if you're in the B2B space or if you're selling to advertisers or someone that's going to support your B2C service, you need to understand how buying decisions get made. So you're not just figuring out what this product needs to do, but what is a customer's thought process to actually write me a check, right? To pay me for this product. So who makes the buying decisions? Who influences the buying decisions? Where's the budget? Are they going to give me budget to solve this problem or not? Other things that are more important. So all that stuff you have to learn in here, so that by the time you get to here, you have paying customers. Because non-paying customers are not great references, right? They need to have paid you money to be great references, because at some point you're going to go ask these guys and these guys to pay money. And if they didn't pay, it doesn't make for, it's not your best reference. It's okay, but it's not your best reference. So up here, you have to end up with reference customers. And not until you have lots of reference customers do you have a market, all right? So that all kind of sounds like common sense, right? Kind of makes sense. So where's the beef? So now I'll tell you, in true confessions, in entrepreneurial style, things that people do wrong with this strategy, so that you can avoid making the same mistakes that I've made and other entrepreneurs that I've worked with, okay? So I'm going to really drill down on the top three. So first, I want to just hear from you. What do you think would be the good thing, the good news and the bad news about selling consulting products or projects if you're an entrepreneur? Okay, what's the good news? This is an easy one.
Money.
Money. Yeah. Who said that? Thank you. So yeah, someone's got to pay the bills, right? So consulting projects, you know, you have a team of superstars, you have ability to solve customer problems, and you know, you can use that to bring money in the door so that you can divert some of that money to build products. But what's the downside? Yeah.
Downside of consulting in
Selling.
product for developing a product.
Yeah.
Well, in our own experience, it's like a total loss of focus.
Yeah.
Sort of being like two things at the same time. You higher up your work.
Yeah. So it's distracting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's distracting. And it's because of that distraction, it's very low leverage, right? You're just doing one-off projects. And it takes your time and attention away from building your product. It's much higher leverage. What else? Any other downsides you guys can think of? Yeah.
It's probably pretty tempting to actually stay on the consulting business as well. There's some low-hanging fruits
Yeah.
pretty easy money.
Yeah, yeah, it's true, it's tempting. So, so truly, sometimes it can be a necessary evil because you got to pay the bills, but if it can be avoided, it's far preferable because you'll end up wasting time doing something that you can't leverage. It will slow down your product development cycles. It will divert your attention, and you may end up not ever building the scalable entrepreneurial venture that you set out to build. So just be really, really careful with that. What about number 5? What about ramping sales and the timing about ramping sales? What would be wrong with having a sales organization in place before the product is ready? Yeah. Costs a lot of money. Are good salespeople cheap? No. Do you want to hire bad salespeople? No. So hiring salespeople, you want to get the good ones, and they are not cheap, and they're able to command guarantees on their compensation, even if they're commission-based sometimes. So I'll tell you a story. So one of the companies I worked in was called Sensing. It made kind of a hacker in a box, a fault injection technology that was targeted towards e-commerce and financial services websites that could prevent hackers from going in and figuring out how to get into the website. So really incredible technology, great concept, rocket science engineers on the team. We thought we were ready. We hired a sales guy. We sent him to Wall Street, demo in hand, shows up at Goldman Sachs to do his demo, and does his demo. They love it. They think this is really going to be great. They're so excited to see this work. He tries to do his demo, and it doesn't work. It crashes. Right? How many of you have been there? Anybody been there? Yeah. So in this case, we got lucky because the customer, Goldman Sachs, said, wow, that's too bad. I believe in this vision. I really need this technology. Go back to California and make it work, and come back when it works. So that just shows we were in a good market because they were willing to wait for us, and it was hard to do, so a competitor couldn't come along and do it in the meantime. I was VP of marketing there at the time. I hung out. I was at that company for 9 months. We didn't have a product the whole time I was there, and it took 2 years before that product actually worked. It works now. It's on the market now, but the company probably wasted a whole round of funding paying sales guys to try to sell something that wasn't ready. So you have to really be careful because sales, and differentiating sales from marketing, sales job is to sell. Sales job is not market research. It's not figuring out 2 years from now where we should be. It's meet the quarter's numbers. So, and they're really good at that, and I have huge respect for them and what they do, but if you don't have a product, there's not a lot for them to do, and you can burn through a lot of cash. So you got to time that really well. So, yeah. Question?
Yes, about the sales people. Do you really need let's say, professional sales people in the early stages? For two reasons, what I'm thinking of. First of all, what you initially thought what your business is, or the plan A normally doesn't work.
Yeah.
So the money that you're going, or the solving the problem that you think you are solving, normally is not the case.
Yeah.
This is going to be successful.
Right.
The second thing is that when your product is not yet productized, it's not ready. It's nothing. It's usually something that where let's say the people who have developed the product, who have developed the idea, who are developing the product, are probably perhaps better salespeople than the professional salespeople. So if you hire the salespeople, you have to have product ready. Well, that's what I think.
That's exactly right. So when I joined Clarify in '91, and we developed our first demos, the CEO, who was an experienced CEO, it was his second startup. He said, Donna, you and I are going to sell the first few customers, because if you and I can't sell this, no one can sell this, right? And it's not that I'm a great salesperson or he was a great salesperson, but we had to have that frontline experience talking to customers, and I loved it. Because again, it was a progression from market research, exploring, understanding customers, really learning their motivation, to, okay, here's the one we want. Here's the market segment we want. Here's what it's going to take to get a decision out of them. Here's what it's going to take. Here's how much money I can get from them. Here's what it's going to take to build this market. And then as a marketing exec, so I'm thinking longer term, right? But we still had to close that deal. And we still had to get those reference customers. And we still had to throw all the resources of the company behind making sure they were successful, because they bought something that really didn't work very well. But we made sure they were successful, and then we had those reference accounts. And then as the marketing executive, I was able to basically take that experience of what it took to sell that and can it, right? Package it. So, and give those tools and techniques and training to the sales organization, who could then replicate it, right? So, question in the back?
Yeah, this is actually not a question. I think you should also take into account the current lean startup phenomenon that is going on in the Bay Area and everywhere else, obviously. Eric Ries and Steve Blank is pushing up this customer development.
Yeah.
And customer development is basically discovering market opportunities through working with customers.
Right.
So now this obviously sales and product and things is assuming we have a product that fulfills a need. But
right.
the people who are there, we still have to do some discovery work
right.
To get there.
Right. Steve and I, so I know Steve, he and I wrote this presentation at the same time, way back in about 19, whatever, it was probably 2001 or 2. And then he wrote the book, so he beat me to that. But yes, exact same idea. You gotta develop your customers. So initially that's the job of the CEO and the job of your marketing executive, to go out and identify who those right first customers are, make sure you have the right product, and make sure you get into the right market segments. So I'm going to go into, yes?
Just read what we just said. I somewhere between this comment and your response, I got a little lost. Could you rephrase what you just said
Sure.
about developing the first customers?
So I said, to summarize there, as a CEO, you and your marketing executives should close the first customers, right? Because what you learn in that process is invaluable, and it sets the strategic direction for your company. So Steve Blank talks about the customer development process, which you should all read. Steve's book is great, about how you build these relationships and build confidence and build trust with customers, and those become the markets that you go after longer term. As a marketing executive, I take what I learn in that process and I turn it into sales materials. Here's the positioning on the website. Here's the ROI analysis tool that you might need to sell this. Here's the pricing. Here's the packaging. Here's the positioning. Here's the competitive analysis. All those are sales tools that I developed out of personally making those first few sales with the CEO. Does that clarify? And then you have a repeatable sales process. Right? So then you have the tools, and then you have a sales force that can go out and crank out the sales. Right? But the first phase of that is a very strategic process that salespeople who are traditional salespeople it's not their expertise to do. Yeah.
You mentioned about the development of relationship with the customers, and
yep.
It's easy when we have a B2C business. And here we have a relationship with the government, and we have a startup, and the main customer is a government department, for example, military or healthcare. What do you think?
The same thing applies. So you have to understand, how does the government make buying decisions? Where does the budget come from? Where are the biggest opportunities within the government? Is it one department or another? How big is that market opportunity? And how are you going to standardize the process of closing those deals? That's marketing's job. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah.
Do you have any ideas or comments on what would be the right size or the optimal size of the first deal? What should
Right.
So any comments on that?
Depends on what your product is, right? So what I typically did is whatever was the price of my product, I discounted 50% for my first few customers. So if I was selling a $250,000 product, they got it for $125. If I was selling a $20,000 product, they got it for 10. So it depends on what your price. So you have to kind of do your long-term pricing, figure out what it's worth in the market and where you want to be, and then give your first customers a break. Does that answer your question?
That helps.
Okay, we can talk more. So anyway, so let's go to mistake number 1. So I just told you you don't need salespeople right off the bat, but you do need to start learning how to sell. So where marketers and entrepreneurs go wrong in mistake number 1 is they go, wow, this is great. I have this vision. I just raised some money. It could be €500,000. It could be 5 million euros. I mean, whatever. You've got something. You're going to go build the vision. And you go in your dark corners and you start writing code. Right? So what's wrong with that?
You're not going to get 5 million
Yeah.
in Finland.
So go with the 5,000.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Okay. So say you got 5,000. What's wrong with that?
Probably not exactly what the market needs.
Probably not exactly what the market needs, right? Do you think it's going to be too much or too little? More often than not, it's too much. More often than that, if you go off to build your vision, you're going to build too much, you're going to build the wrong stuff, and you're going to deliver it too late. Okay? So what you have to get right through this whole process that we've been talking about of developing the market while you develop the product, and this is a really hard thing to do, is identify the minimum compelling feature set. So what's the least amount of development work I can do, but still solve customers' problems so that I can get it in their hands? Because the sooner you get product in customers' hands, the sooner the real learning starts taking place. They will help you define where you're going.
How do you feel about eating your own dog food first, like sort of selling to others?
It's great. You know the Microsoft people? Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Because if you try to eat your own dog food, you have your own problem, and you're pretty much define your product based on that problem. Whereas the reality might be that, when once you start selling to others, and you realize that, okay, well, my problem was too complex, these guys need it.
Yeah.
It's the wrong problem.
But you probably still want to be using it anyway.
Well, I would, yeah.
Yeah. So his question is, how do I feel about eating your own dog food, meaning using your own products, right? So it comes from the story of somebody made this really great dog food. Some people said, I made this really great dog food, and it's going to just take the market by storm. And so they marketed the heck out of it, put it in a pretty package, and then the dogs didn't eat it. So, so if you can use your own product in-house, great. I mean, with the caveat that you're not the ultimate customer, so make sure you've chosen the right customers first, and you know who you're building it for and what target market you're going after. Good question, Pat?
Yeah, this is also a comment that puts some perspective on this in this discussion. So Finland has this fantastic government funding agency, TechEd, which is absolutely necessary for the ecosystem here, and it's doing a great job in terms of putting lots of funding in.
Yeah.
But the problem with that organization and the way it works is that it doesn't support this kind of iterative, quick product runs. It's basically assuming that you know the need and you know the market and you know what you're building on, and then you build it up for 18 months and then you get something out of it. And this kind of mentality is hurting like crazy because every startup is being too slow in developing their stuff.
Yeah.
And I know the value, basic value mentality is that you get something out in 2 months, and if you can't do it in 2 months, you have 2 complex products you're building. And if you, that's exaggeration, but pretty much like that, right?
Yeah, depending on the industry, right?
Yeah, obviously.
The B2C website, yeah.
But the minimum viable product is much more than doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've learned about that on my trip over here. Not sure how you address that, because the other, one of the other basic rules is if somebody offers you money, take the money. Another rule of entrepreneurship. But it sounds like, if there are strings attached, to be able to do this kind of a process, it can really delay your ultimate time to market. And it will cost more money to develop the right product if you're not doing this. Yeah?
I mean, but one of the problems is also that they give you the money afterwards. So it's like,
Oh, you could be starved by then.
But I think the way to deal with that is that you kind of like keep the money inside out the project, and then when you realize the product is slightly different, take it as hierarchy. That's what we do anyway. It's sort of flexible that you can explain that, you know, you realize that we need to do it something different, then change direction while you're at it, and then explain it afterwards. I hope for the best.
That's a rule. Another rule we have in Silicon Valley called to ask permission is to seek denial. So ask forgiveness. Okay, so what you have to get right is to figure out what the minimum compelling feature set is, get it in the hands of customers, but also in this process, learn how to sell it and figure out who your early customer partners are going to be that are going to create the market for you. Okay, so, and here's for those of you who learn visually, just one second. This is what it's like if you don't do this. What happens is you're over there in your product development cycle, product's done, you're ready to ship, you're done with all your development phase, somebody goes, oh, go sell this, right? Okay, so you do this, you go look for your paying customers. There are no paying customers because you haven't done the steps below them. They don't just magically appear. You have to go back, have some exploratory meetings, generate some feedback, build some credibility, then you are qualified to earn some paying customers, and that can cost you easily 6 to 18 months and a round of funding. So that's a pretty compelling reason why you need to be doing this. A question?
Yeah, I was just thinking because something we get told a lot by the coaches here, for example, is the emphasis on scalability. So how would you compare, because something that a lot of people say is like, you know, we'll try this first in the Finnish market and then scale it. How would you compare that with this idea of sort of like the lean startup where you just have a minimum compelling amount of, yeah.
I think it's very complementary. I think they're kind of the same thing. So you're going to develop something targeted towards the Finnish market, which is you can define some segment, whatever problem you're solving in the Finnish market, learn a lot from that. I mean, one of the things I learned at Big Ten in the B2C space is, you know, if we developed something for 10 million user scalability out of the box, it would have taken us way too long to get to market, right? So we developed something with an architecture that supported 500,000 users. And we got it out there, and we got customers using it, users using it, we got feedback, and we managed to success ourselves into the situation where we needed to re-architect our application. So then you got to go in and rebuild some stuff to scale to the next level. But you can't afford, this is going to kind of goes to building the vision. If my vision is I'm going to have 50 million or 100 million or be Facebook and have 600 million users, believe me, that initial version of Facebook wouldn't have supported 600 million users. So you're constantly redoing what you did before, so that you, because you got to emphasize getting to market and earning the right to have that problem, basically. Don't know. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean,
sort of?
the thing I was going for is it's kind of a different view from what we get told a lot. Like basically, that Finland's such a small market, you could like immediately target Germany or
I think it depends on your product. I mean, gaming products can go international like that, right? You could I just came from France working with some entrepreneurs there. There's a 5-person company that is the #2 Android game on the market right now, worldwide. So out of the gate, they had US, Japan, Scandinavian countries, as well as France. Extremely scalable from day one in a 5-person company. So that works. But if you're doing enterprise or if you're doing other things, you don't have to have that right out of the gate. You can grow into it. Okay, so question is, how do you do this? You meet with at least 30, so this is very similar if you've read Steve Blank's book, meet with at least 30 prospective customers in 3 months. If you're doing B2C, it could be 3 or 4 times that to really understand who your customers are. And this is what marketing is while engineering is developing the product. Listen, learn, refine. And here are some questions that we've been talking about. So what are customers' priorities? Where is their greatest pain? What do they do now to address that pain? Because maybe it's not that bad a problem. The thing is, customers, humans, want to please. So they will tell you answers that they think you want to hear with only the best intentions. You have to figure out what the real situation is, right? So one of my favorite questions is, why would you not buy this? Please tell me all the reasons you wouldn't buy this. Well, I wouldn't buy it because it's too expensive. I wouldn't buy it because I don't know who would approve the budget. I wouldn't buy it because, well, this is an interesting problem and it bothers me, but it's actually number 6 on my boss's list and he has the money, right? So you need to get all the reasons they wouldn't buy it, and that's what you're trying to do out of this process. Figure out how is the company organized, how do their decisions get made, who makes the decisions, how are you different from the competition, what's the best way to get competitive information? How do you guys get competitive information? Yeah.
By meeting customers and asking from them, how are you different from the competitors?
Right. So a mistake that many product managers and sometimes entrepreneurs make is comparing their future with the competitor's present. So with what's on the competitor's website, what's in their marketing materials, that's not what they're selling. It's a direct sales type business. They're selling futures the same as you're selling futures. So you have to figure out where your competitor's going. And I would say, based on my very limited experience, the whole area of competitive analysis and really understanding what's out there on a global scale is something that that you guys need to do more of. Because a lot of it is driven by, here's a really cool thing that I can develop, that I can build. But in the presentations that I've been seeing, I saw 12 yesterday and several today. You really need to look at, okay, what's different about what you're doing from what else is out there, and really understanding from a competitive standpoint how you are different. Okay? So that's what you're going to do. How do you think these meetings are easy to get? How would you get these meetings? I'm going to cold call.
Peer reference are pretty good.
Peer references?
Yeah, just ask them a friend like who.
Yeah.
Introduce me to some clients and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, use LinkedIn because then you can find like sort of right person in the company. Like you look at the company name and then you can see the titles. Then you get some idea of who you should actually contact.
Yeah. So I have a great LinkedIn. I swear by LinkedIn. So a year and a half ago, when I started looking for partnerships for Clarify, for Big Tent, that ultimately led to the sale, it was time for us, we were big enough, it was time to go out and get some partners. And basically through LinkedIn, I could find pretty much anybody, I was one step removed from almost anybody I wanted to meet with. If I wanted to go to Nickelodeon, I could get a contact. I wanted to go to Procter & Gamble, I could get a contact. So, I mean, over the years, I accept all my LinkedIn, so if you guys want to link to me, go for it. And it was awesome in terms of providing those connections. A tool we didn't have 10 years ago. What else?
Then if you have new information for the customers, I always send like research material and then the key points for them after the meeting.
That is huge, right? What you're doing, what he said is he has new information. Do you have a background in sales?
Well, I used to do sales, and then I used to be a product manager, and now I'm a strategy guy.
Yeah. So what does that customer care about? Give them something that they're going to learn from. Share some research. Start building your credibility and building your relationship, and you'll earn their time to have a meeting. So other things, you know, this is an amazing network right here. So I bet you guys could help each other get contacts in different companies or places. So anyway, your professors, your teachers probably have some great contacts, probably willing to help. So you just got to be clever. Families, friends, I would shamelessly use all of those contacts. Okay, mistake number 2, overemphasizing the product. I mentioned this before, I just want to drive this point home. Where entrepreneurs go wrong is thinking in terms of their product instead of the customer's pain. So it's not about you, it's about the customer. What's wrong with thinking about your product is that you miss out on an opportunity to build a relationship with the customer, and it delays your market development because you're waiting until you've got something to show them. You don't have to have something to show them. You can have PowerPoint slides to show them. What it's about when you have these meetings with customers is not about talking, it's about listening and hearing what their problems are and where they're coming from. So what you have to get right is building your credibility that you understand their problems and that you can remove that problem or that pain, and you're building that relationship. So what I like to say is if you shift the mindset to that of the customer's mindset instead of your company's mindset, you have a lot more assets. And one of them is what we call the player. And it's a person that can be marketed in lieu of a product. So the characteristics of the player are these things. And I'll let you read it and tell you a story. One of the companies that I worked with is called Mohr-Davidow. It's a supply chain management company, software company, B2B. And the CEO of that company was a guy named Sun Microsystems, and he was a former KPMG consultant in supply chain. So when he worked with KPMG, he was billed out at $600 an hour to go to big companies and help them solve their supply chain problems. So he had a lot of credibility because people knew who Singh was. And so I could get a lot of meetings. I would say, Sun Microsystems wants to come and understand what's going on in your supply chain. We're building a company. We want to know, how we can help you. And they were very happy to talk to Singh and tell Singh all of their problems. And what I would have to do every once in a while was kick him under the table and make him stop talking because he was very good at sharing his wisdom. But the objective of these meetings is to listen. So you get somebody like that, but they don't have to have that much credibility. The sheer fact that you've done your homework, you understand your market, you have a vision, makes you a player. And there might be other players like professors that are here or other people in Garage that could help you be a player. So players really understand the game. They have respected experience and knowledge. Oftentimes they're your technical people. They have technical expertise. I love bringing my engineers out on these kinds of calls and having them listen face-to-face with customers. They're able to build rapport with customers. They're able to take what they learn and translate it back to the development organizations, and they attract other players. So what's important here is the player's expertise has more value to your customers, your first customers, and less risk than your product. So if you realize that what matters is solving their problem, then this player's expertise is the way you're going to do that, and your initial customers need to believe that. Okay. Next slide is how many of you have been a part of a big company and gone through a beta testing process or brought a new product to market? Raise hand. Okay, quite a few. So I'm here to tell you, forget all about how you did that, because for a startup, it's all wrong. Okay? So it's all wrong because there are some assumptions made, whether explicit or not, in a big company that do not hold for startups. So what's wrong is they do insufficient strategic customer and marketing qualification. What does that mean? That means they're not thinking long-term about who my initial product testers are. They're not thinking necessarily that this is who my long-term market's going to be. They don't have to. As a startup, you have to. And they also are often not focused on referenceability because they already have customers, they already have references, they already have a reputation in the market, right? So they may not worry about these initial customers who are going to test the product being referenceable at all. And then you miss the whole opportunity to learn how to develop your sales cycle. So what you have to get right as a startup is you have to get your first customers in the right market, and 80% of them have to buy, pay money, assuming you have a product that you're charging for. So the typical product testing process is product managers identify some early customers that are willing to kick the tires and learn a little bit about this product and give you some product feedback. You may or may not include that feedback in the next release of the product. It might go on the roadmap down the road. The product eventually gets finalized, it ships, you launch it, and voila, a product is on the market. So why early product testing is strategic, not tactical for a startup, is if you're with a big company, you already have a market, a reputation, and existing customer relationships. You're a big company. You have all that. Startups do not. You don't have customers yet. You don't have a reputation in the market yet. You don't have a market. So these first customers that are going to kick the tires of your product and test it and give you feedback are going to create that for you. They're going to be your first customers. They're going to create, they're going to be the references that become your ultimate market. And they're going to establish your reputation. So you really need to think about who they are, and you really need to choose wisely. Okay? Or else you go back to ground zero on the market development side of the chart, and it looks like this. Right? So you may have some, you may talk to some customers, you may get some product feedback, but only half of them buy. Some of those may not be successful, so not everybody becomes a reference customer, or the market that you've just developed a few references in is too small, right? That's what can happen. So that's why you have to be really careful and choose the right first customers. So what's a wrong first customer?
You can't use the customer as a reference. So the customer doesn't want it to be public.
Yeah. So, in Silicon Valley, everybody loves Intel, great, huge, successful company, but they have a policy never to provide a reference. So all the companies I worked in, I said, we are just not going there. I'm not going to talk to them because what I need out of this process is not only product feedback, but references. So, and then there are a lot of reasons that a customer doesn't become a reference. They could be in the wrong market. So it might be a non-repeatable sale because they had some special one-off things you had to do. Their priorities might not be mainstream. They might have no intention of buying. So one company I worked with, another war story here, we made an email server back before all the cloud email guys existed that really simplified the email server. It was highly reliable, and we went out and we talked to lots of email admins, and they loved it, and they were willing to take it and test it and give us feedback, and then we were ready to ship the product, and no one bought it. So we're like, I thought you loved it. And they said, well, we do love it, but we have this security issue, this data warehousing issue, this blah, 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 all these other problems that they had to solve first before there was budget to make email easier to manage. And somehow, in the process, I forgot to ask those questions. So those were wrong customers. That company did not survive. And the bottom line is, a wrong customer is a customer that, for whatever reason, is not referenceable. Okay? So you have to do three things in this in your initial testing process. Get feedback to product development, that's good, but make sure you're selecting the right strategic customer that's going to lead you to the biggest bubble at the top, and make sure that you're establishing strong references, a base of die-hard loyal customers who will be referenceable. Okay? So this is my last slide, and I'm happy to take questions. So key takeaways, don't wait for the product to be available. Go out there and talk to customers. When you go out there and talk to potential customers, build credibility. So make sure that they understand that you understand what their problem is. Figure out what your minimum compelling feature set is and get that product to market in the right customer's hands as quickly as you can, and make sure those customers are strong references. So that's what it all kind of boils down to. And last but not least, my father was a salesman, so I learned a few things, I think, from him, and perhaps that's why I have such great respect for salespeople and the work that they do. But in the end, you know, I'm a pragmatist. Before I put a new product on the market, I ask, will it sell, right? You just got to convince yourself of that, and that you have a strategy for how you're going to make that happen. And that's it. Questions?
Yeah, what's the marketing strategy for software as a service?
Same, yeah. The question is how's marketing for software as a service different than traditional software? It's the same. The price points will be lower. So, but I mean, back in the 90s, we could get away with. I mean, SQL Systems did this in spades. They'd ship $1 million to get $1 million order that most of it sat on the shelf and they never, but they still got the money, right? Can't do that anymore. So when you ship software as a service, the customer service that you deliver is part of your marketing strategy and it's part of your product strategy. So you have to earn that renewal every day. Yeah.
My question is on Big Ten, because I mean you have like sort of payment systems involved as well, like sort of for registering for events and so forth. And I just wonder why your business model wasn't based around that. Instead of what seems to be the much less scalable and much more difficult business model where you were sort of marketing, you know, third-party products to these groups. I understand.
Yeah. Good question. And we tried a lot of things. 2009 was the year of failed revenue attempts, to be honest. We tried a lot of different things. So we actually do take payments. We do make some money on payments. Payment processing through PayPal, and we take a small margin on that. The reality is, for things like that, you need 10 million users or more for it to start paying the bills. So I think someday that will be an interesting revenue stream for the company, but you have to have a certain scale before it really adds up to anything significant, at least in our business. So I'm working now, I'm on the board of another company that does websites for teams, like soccer teams and baseball teams and football teams and stuff. And their model is subscription. And we're having no trouble at all getting people to pay to use that. And part of it is because in that market, there are significant fees that people pay to the coaches, to the league, for all the administration of that. So there's a lot more money flowing through the system. So tacking on, $5 to $10 per user per year in subscription fees is a piece of cake. So that's working for us for this other company now. I think Big Ten probably could do that now, but at the time, Ling was free. And there was this great belief that everything on the web should be free. And this is not a very good business model. So that is evolving now, and I hope will continue to evolve. But there's huge value that we were delivering. So the other thing that's changed a lot in the last year is the local advertising market due to the Groupon phenomenon. So Groupon came out with a really compelling product, but what that's done is opened up local advertisers to marketing on the internet, which they were not accessible before. So now there's a whole bunch of opportunities in that space. And that, I think, is a potentially interesting channel for a Big Tent also, to partner with the groups who could do fundraising with local merchants and do a rev share with Big Tent for delivering, for being the vehicle to deliver those advertisements. So, you know, revenue in B2C internet businesses is a very rapidly changing landscape. And there are lots of different ways to make money. Yeah?
When you talk about customer development at earlier stages, I had the impression that on one hand we may sometimes get lucky, find a customer whose problem is obvious and your product would address it obviously. I had the impression that there's another kind of customer that can solve the problem, it's more fluid. And that there's a kind of critical juncture where you got to catch and figure it out and succeed to communicate the merits of your product in terms of his problem.
Right.
And did I read that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So some of them, like with Clarify in the early days, there was one customer who went to Silicon Graphics, and the VP of Customer Service for Silicon Graphics was a classic early adopter persona, right? And he heard a few slides of what we were doing, and he goes, wait a minute, and he comes back and he throws a spec on the table and he goes, this is what I need, build this, right? And his vision and our vision were identically aligned. And he said, it's not my core mission to build CRM software, I'm a graphics hardware company. But he had this vision of what it's going to take for him to build customer service, and it was our vision. And he was an awesome, first customer for us. Classic. If you guys haven't read Jeffrey Mohr, Crossing the Chasm, I would strongly recommend it. It's my Bible. So great strategy for market entry in startups. And then there are other cases where it's kind of like, not sure exactly what problem we're solving here, but we got to figure it out before we get to that bubble that says paying customers, right? And the best way to do that, I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs are very visionary and they want to build the whole thing, and they see taking that first market as something that's limiting. It's not. That first market is just a first market, and you're going to use that to attract, to go to many more markets and to get to your vision, but you've got to start somewhere, and you can't start with the vision. Yeah.
If there's a few engineers or people with technical background starting a startup, what would be your message be to them when they're thinking about getting a business savvy co-founder? I mean, should they get one? What kind of person should they look for? So forth.
They absolutely need one. Either one of them has to become that, or they should bring someone in. Unless it is what we call a science experiment. And you have, in some cases, especially not so much in the IT space, but in life sciences or green technology, some of them are science projects, right? And you have to prove that the science is going to work before this is really relevant. So if you're in the science project stage, then do your science project. But as soon as you figure out, yes, we have a marketable product or you need someone that's going to be responsible for developing customers while you develop the market. So certainly at least a year ahead of when you think you're going to be ready for prime time.
But how would they recognize the right kind of person for this?
They're probably in this room. They come to these meetings. That's why, I went to the project development space, and they have the bar there so that everybody mingles, right? They're there, they're at the bar. There are people that have a passion for doing the impossible. So I think you'll know them when you see them. Yes?
I would like to ask you a question about VC part in your career.
Yeah.
And so basically VCs are making very long-term bets.
Yes.
That returns are not coming in the next month.
10 years or more.
Exactly. So how is it in the, like, for example, VCs systematic about really doing the long-term foresight planning, or are they just going the intuition and picking up the right team, which would like pivot and find itself? So how actually VCs are like dealing with these things? Is it by
answer is yes.
Are they systematic?
The answer is no. The answer is yes to both. Most of them, so they have to go out and raise money from limited partners, right? So they get money from pension funds and university endowments and all kinds of places that have big, huge funds of money that carve off a couple percent to give to the asset class called venture capital, right? So they have customers too, right? And if you think about it, they have their own investment thesis or their own investment strategy that when they go to raise money, they say, this is my investment thesis, this is where I think the hot areas are. So we're looking for deals in these segments. But it's usually very broad. You know, I mean, at Mohr-Davidow, they'll say, 5 years ago somebody probably said cloud computing is going to be big, right? Well, that's pretty big. And sometimes they'll have further refinement than that. Usually the further refinement pieces change all the time depending on whatever they're passionate about. So they have a strategy. They can change their strategy in terms of at the level of cloud computing versus other things. But they can't say all of a sudden we're an IT investor and we're going to go do life sciences, because they make commitments to their limited partners that the limited partners are investing in an IT fund or a mixed fund, right? So they have those commitments. But that said, every time entrepreneurs come in, they probably have a certain number of things they're looking for. I'm looking for Android games. You know, I'm looking for whatever particular segment or hotspot that they believe in. But then, even more important is they're looking for entrepreneurs that are going to figure out where the opportunity is. So, of what you asked, the answer is really both. They have strategies, but they also equally invest in people that they think are knowledgeable about a particular segment and going to figure out how to build a great company. Does that answer your question?
Let's continue that subject. Are we in a bubble and no guys?
I don't know. I get a little cynical sometimes because I think right now I see a lot of herd behavior. There's always a lot of herd behavior in VCs. There is certainly a bubble around gaming technologies, as we witnessed locally. But it's true, some really great companies are going to be built. So it's probably worthwhile. You also see a lot of VCs, big, traditional, well-known VCs that are adopting a labor market strategy, and they're doing a lot. They're making sure that they get their money into Groupon at outrageous valuations. So they're a little bit all over the map right now. There's not as much money in venture as there was 10 years ago before that bubble, because a lot of the LPs and whatnot just got wiped out in the last 10 years. There has not been a lot of liquidity in venture capital, meaning not a lot of IPOs, not a lot of high-priced sales over the last 10 years. So some funds are having trouble raising their next fund. But others who have 30-year track records, who are around in the 80s and 90s and make tons of money, those guys will get whatever money they need to continue investing. And so we are definitely seeing some bubble behavior around certain segments. Yeah.
I'm Ville Kala-Arkman from Tribe Studios. We make one-night games. So do you have any tips on identifying the customers who have no intention of buying, like before I actually get to the point where they're supposed to do the purchases?
For a gaming company?
Well, I guess that's my sort of perspective, but I guess you should answer whatever.
Well, I mean, if you're actually speaking with them, you ask them, right? Would you buy this? Would you pay $2 for this, or $10 for this, or 50 cents? You ask them.
So you think an answer like that, if they say yes, it's trustworthy?
Yeah. Especially if you ask enough of them. Yeah.
are you still involved with sort of entrepreneurship, or are you acting as a maybe investor, angel investor? I don't know what the size of the exit was, but something that you guys are looking at.
Not right now. A lot of my money's tied up in VC from the last 10 years. I'm waiting for a little liquidity there. So not really. But I am working on another startup idea. So I have a co-founder and we're working on a new company. Can't help it.
As a corollary to one of the more recent questions, as you're going through and evaluating and proving out the pain points and what that's worth for the customers, different customers, how do you use that as design for effectively pricing?
Oh, great question. Pricing is hard. I've done lots of pricing. The ultimate goal in pricing is to figure out what's the easiest way to get as much money as possible from a customer, right? So you keep that in mind, right? And then there are things like packaging plays a big role in pricing. So do you break it up into little modules? Do you sell it as one big chunk? I mean, at Clarify, again, another lesson learned. You guys are going to think I did everything wrong. I did lots of things wrong. My competitor was selling all these different modules, and we had all that stuff, but we sold it as one big bundle. And pricing was kind of comparable, but customers thought we didn't have it because it wasn't a separate line item on the price list. So from that experience, I learned, again, put yourself in the customer's shoes and what are the logical bundles of functionality, and can you break those out and sell them separately so that A, they recognize that you have that capability because oftentimes they don't know, and B, you can get more money. So you can have low entry costs with some basic module and then have add-on things. It's kind of like the freemium model, right? So the ultimate low is free, and then here's all the add-on modules, which actually the club software website that I'm doing has a freemium model. So you can get a free version, but if you want to track player stats, then you pay $5 per kid per year. Small, but there was a free version. So, so I have built many ROI models that I thought were really cool in the Salesforce, and I gave to the Salesforce, like, if you want to justify the pricing, here's an ROI model that you can use, have the customer plug in their data, 3 or 4 or 5 pieces of data, and it will spit out, here's the value. I did those for purposes of pricing, and then I would turn them into sales tools. Rarely did a sales rep ever actually use that, but it made me feel good. But I do think you need to understand the ROI from the customer's point of view to do pricing, to figure out, okay, where's the threshold going to be in terms of how much money I can get for this. Does that answer your question? Okay.
I have a question. How do you balance out, for example, communicating information about your company, what you're developing, to protecting yourself from potential copycats?
Okay, good question. In general, entrepreneurs are probably too concerned about someone copying their idea. If it's that easy to copy, you probably don't have a viable business, right? So usually there's some pretty hard technology involved that is a fundamental barrier to entry, and you've got some expertise in that is going to protect you. And you need to, but again, you don't want to say things that you don't have to say. And the interesting thing is, again, if you kind of in these early, the 30 meetings or whatever that I talked about, if you shift your mindset to, it's about their pain, not about my product, you don't have to say very much about what your product does or what your secret sauce is. It's about listening to them and hearing them talk about what their pain is. So, you have to say enough to be credible, but you don't have to share all the credentials. Now, with VC, you might. The VCs that I work work with in the US, it's if they violate that kind of trust, they're out of business, right? They have to have trust because they see hundreds, if not thousands, or tens of thousands of business plans a year. And if they start getting a reputation for sharing people's ideas and breaching that trust, they won't see any more business plans. They're out of business. So, so I'm not too concerned about VCs. Also, they're not usually people that are going to go write code. So you need to say what you need to say to show that you have something unique and compelling. I would share more with an investor than I would with a customer because you don't have to with a customer. Other questions? Yeah.
Have you met entrepreneurs who have shown that their ideas have been stolen? Because I think this is a great question because I also think that people are too afraid. But is there anybody there who actually says that, hey, they have stolen our idea?
I've heard that. I still think, I mean, if it's that easy to steal and copy, is it really yours? I don't know.
I mean, considering your broad background working with startups and entrepreneurs, what's the practical roles business plans these days? And does it have any value after it's been to VC?
The business plan is for you. It's not for the VC. It's not for anybody else. It's for you to convince yourself that you have a viable business and one that's going to be a successful company. So you absolutely have to do your business plan, but no VC that I know of is ever going to read it. They only look at PowerPoint. So they'll look at demos too. But in 9 years in VC, I never saw them read a business plan. It's for you.
I work in startup called Game Machine, and I have a good example of copying someone's idea. We came out with a prototype product online last September, and the Estonian company copied the product like totally, design, everything, colors, but they don't have, like, they don't know vision in the future. So it's like Donna said, like you have the vision, and it's very hard for the companies to find out about it. So they're going to come up in a few weeks with first launch, like which we're going to start to sell. So that's totally different already, like what they had before. So
yeah, it's a moving target, right? I mean, how many identical Groupon clones are there? A lot of them, right? Every country, practically. Now Groupon, they go off and raise gazillion dollars and buy them all up. So you just have to figure out what's your competitive strategy. If you're in that kind of business that can be replicated like that, then be thinking about what are you going to do next. I probably should let you guys go.
Let's have one final question.
One more question,
Yeah.
okay?
How do we get your slides?
Oh, I'm happy to send them to you. Yeah, happy to share.
Not qualified.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Okay, so next Friday, during the same time, 2 p.m., we have Mohr-Davidow coming over from Silicon Valley to give a brief talk. Morten is a serial entrepreneur who's founded 8 companies. The 7th one was MySQL. He wasn't the founder, but he was the CEO. They sold to Sun Microsystems in 2007 for $1 billion. And now he's working in Silicon Valley for Aaltoes systems. So, RSVP on Facebook. Thank you for coming.